All right, so today we're going to dive into the absolutely dramatic life of one of Sparta's greatest heroes, a guy named Pausanias. But, his story is so much more than just a simple biography. It's really a fascinating case study that forces us to ask a really important question about the super rigid Spartan state and what the true limits of royal power actually were. So let's just get right to the heart of it. Here's the central constitutional question that Pausanias' life really makes us face. In the, well, let's call it unique system of Sparta, could the state itself, through its elected officials, actually arrest and imprison its own king? Could they really put their royalty in chains?
Well, it turns out the historian Thucydides, who is really our best source for all of this, gives us a startlingly direct answer. Yeah, he just comes right out and says that the Ephors, they were a group of 5 publicly elected magistrates. Yep, they are allowed to imprison a king. Now, the very fact that Thucydides even had to point this out tells you just how shocking and extraordinary this power was. And honestly, the story behind this single line, it reveals pretty much everything you need to know about the Spartan system.
Okay, so first up, hero of the Greeks, the apex of power and prestige. Look, before we can even begin to understand the fall, we have to appreciate the incredible height from which this man fell. We're not talking about just any Spartan here. This guy was hailed as the hero of all Greece. So let's just lay out the key facts. Pausanias, he's from the royal Agia dynasty, and he's serving as regent for the king Pleistarchus, who was just a kid at the time. But here's the big one. He was the victorious commander at the Battle of Plataea back in 479 BC. This was the decisive land battle that ended the Second Persian invasion for good. And that victory, it made him, at least for a while, the supreme commander of all the combined Greek forces. He was basically the most famous man in the entire Greek world.
All right, next section, arrogance and ambition, the character of a king versus the ethos of a state. And this right here is where the story gets really interesting. You see, Pausanias' immense personal prestige, his fame, his power, it immediately started to clash with Sparta's super strict communal and, frankly, anti-individualistic values. This is literally the story of one man's ego going head-to-head with the entire mindset of a state.
Now, to really get a handle on that clash, you've got to understand this core Greek concept, hubris. And listen, it's way more than just being proud. It's this dangerous, over-the-top arrogance that basically challenges the natural order of things. And for the Greeks, you know what hubris almost always led to? A downfall, a reckoning. And for Pausanias, that reckoning was going to come directly from his own government.
And if you want a perfect illustration of this conflict, just look at what happened with the Plataea Victory Tripod. After the battle, this massive bronze tripod was set up at Delphi as a monument. But Pausanias, he went and inscribed a personal boast on it, all about himself. Well, the Spartans back home were absolutely horrified. So according to Thucydides, they actually sailed to Delphi, physically scraped his name off of it, and replaced it with a simple list of all the Greek city-states that fought. They literally chiseled away his individual glory and put up a monument to the group effort instead. Incredible.
And it wasn't just a problem at home either. His behavior had, well, huge international consequences. The historian Plutarch tells us that Sparta's own allies got so fed up with his arrogance that they started to look elsewhere, specifically to the rising power of Athens. His personality literally helped push Sparta's allies away and set the stage for the future Peloponnesian War. Okay, which brings us to the main event, the state versus Pausanias. Accusation, conspiracy, and the constitutional showdown. All of Pausanias' behavior abroad, well, it basically handed his political enemies back home all the ammunition they needed to finally make their move. And the charges they leveled against him were severe. Each one was like a direct attack on the very heart of what it meant to be Spartan. First, they accused him of Medism, that's secretly negotiating with their mortal enemy Persia. Second, of adopting foreign customs and luxury, which was a huge insult to the famous Spartan austerity. And then there was the third charge, the most explosive one of all, plotting a conspiracy with the Helots, Sparta's massive, state-owned serf population.
So why was that last charge so incredibly dangerous? Well, you have to understand that the entire Spartan state, its military, its laws, its whole social structure, it was all built on the violent oppression of the Helots, who were the majority of the population. The fear of a Helot uprising was Sparta's constant #1 nightmare. It was their existential terror. So a king plotting with them, That wasn't just treason. It was an absolutely unthinkable threat to their entire way of life.
And according to Thucydides, Pausanias wasn't just making vague threats. He was allegedly promising the Helots the two things the Spartan state was explicitly designed to deny them. First, their freedom, and second, and this is even more radical, Spartan citizenship. I mean, if that was true, he was trying to dismantle the very foundations of their society from within.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. How did the state respond? Not with a back-alley assassination or a military coup. No, they responded with the cold, hard application of constitutional power. The Ephors issued a formal summons recalling him to Sparta. When he got back, they had him arrested. And just as Thucydides told us, he was thrown into prison. Just like that. The hero of Greece, the Regent King, was now a common prisoner of the very state he once led.
All right, let's bring it all together. 3 things to remember. What are the key takeaways from this whole dramatic story? What does the case of Pausanias definitively tell us about power in Sparta?
Okay, let's boil this right down. If you're studying this, get ready to take notes, because here are 3 definitive conclusions from the life of Pausanias that are perfect for revision.
Okay, here's the constitutional bottom line. Number 1, royal power in Sparta was not absolute. The Ephorate held the clear constitutional authority to arrest and imprison a king, period. Number 2, the Spartan state valued the collective over the individual to an almost unimaginable degree. Personal glory and hubris, even in a national hero, were actively suppressed. And number 3, the fear of a Helot revolt was the single biggest driver of Spartan policy. Any perceived threat from within, especially one that could empower the Helots, was met with overwhelming, decisive force.
And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. I mean, think about it. Pausanias had it all: fame, military command, royal blood. But those 5 Ephors, they had the law. So if a state like Sparta could just imprison its greatest war hero, what does that tell us about where power really comes from? Maybe true, lasting power doesn't lie in one charismatic person, but in the institutions and the laws that can hold absolutely anyone to account.